With the Florida Panthers happily hoisting the Stanley Cup, it is time to face a fairly confusing reality. The state of Florida is now the state of hockey. The numbers simply do not lie. Teams from Florida have now won 3 of the past 5 Stanley Cups and have reached the finals in all 5 of those years. Orlando's Magic Kingdom just may be the most magical place on earth, but Florida, as a state, is the most hockiest place on earth. Apologies to Minnesota and Canada. When Bill Simmons was crying about how no one cares about hockey in Florida, it all felt a bit forced, like a child caught in a lie but refusing to admit it. These days, the crowds are good, and when the postseason rolls around, the atmosphere definitely ramps up to a whole new level just because the folks in Florida do not live and die with their teams through every single preseason and regular season game does not mean a damn thing. In fact, you could argue the NHL sides in Florida are better off for it. One of the benefits for players in the Sunshine State is less pressure. Sure, there are expectations, but it is not the cauldron of say, Toronto, Calgary, New York, or Boston, where fans are arguably overly invested in the success of their teams, and the spotlight is never not shining on you. I've recently wondered what would happen if you swapped the roster of the Toronto Maple Leafs with that of either Florida teams, the Panthers or the Lightning. What would the end result be? I have a sneaking suspicion that Austin Matthews and friends would have reached at least one Stanley Cup Finals during this 5-year period. Alternatively, I don't know how the Floridians would have coped with the media heat in the 6. With all that said, credit to where credit is due. Look, like Florida is not my favorite place in the world, not even close, but they have made hockey work down there. Honestly, it's gotten to the point where it doesn't even seem weird to me. Hockey in Florida kind of fits. It makes sense now. I remember that Florida Panthers 1996 Stanley Cup run, and even at a young age, hockey in the tropics didn't necessarily compute for me. Then again, it was a weird time for the NHL in general. We had the glow puck, those fox fighting robot graphics, and rats being thrown on the ice. It was a sensory overload. As a Northern Californian with the San Jose Sharks, I could at least understand why our region had a professional hockey team. I mean, Downtown Plaza in Sacramento had that outdoor ice skating rink every winter. Sure, it wasn't
Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
But it also wasn't some tropical paradise. I mean, in Miami and Tampa Bay, people complain when the weather gets below like 70 degrees. That's cool to them. Turns out it doesn't matter. Hockey is a winter sport because it's also a sport that translates really well to local markets. When you have a professional hockey franchise, it's easy to get invested into it. It's one of those experiences that when you go and you witness firsthand, you almost immediately, well, at least most folks, fall in love with it. Well, that assumes your NHL franchise isn't being run into the ground by an incompetent person unable to do even the most basic things correctly. Watching, though, Florida win the Stanley Cup and lifting it and celebrating, I felt really happy for that fan base. I have said on this very channel, I would put the next 2 NHL franchises, regardless of if they're relocating or expanding, in Quebec and in Hamilton. I love Canadian markets in the NHL. I also think it's pretty shitty how the league sort of thumbs its nose down and takes for granted Canada and its role in the league. However, you cannot deny the struggles of the Florida Panthers over the years. This isn't like the Vegas Golden Knights who showed up and started winning from day one. There have been a few good times, but a lot of bad times, some in Miami, but most taking place over in Sunrise, Florida. Between that first Stanley Cup appearance in the mid-2010s, the franchise lost $154 million over 18 seasons. While the Tampa Bay Lightning were overcoming their early struggles to build one of the most consistent, stable franchises in the National Hockey League, the Florida Panthers were doing their best Blind Guy McSqueezy impression.
Blind Guy McSqueezy.
Success was scarce. Fans were scarcer. Playing in the South Florida suburbs obviously did not help the team when they were playing out their darkest days. But as you say, if you build it, they will come. The Panthers have built one of the best teams in hockey, and fans have turned out in force this season. Make no mistake, things could have easily gone in the other direction for the Florida Panthers and, quite frankly, hockey as a whole in the state of Florida. I mean, the Tampa Bay Lightning were possibly owned by the Yakuza, were more than $20 million in debt, and weren't paying their taxes. Before the current ownership group took over, the Lightning cycled through owners ranging anywhere from terrible to mediocre. Bill Davidson was fine, I suppose, but yeah, they had some true incompetent fools owning that team. The point is, that franchise could have easily found itself in the hands of a team relocator in the late 90s and early 2000s. Against all odds, the Lightning have not only survived, but now they are thriving down in the Sunshine State. Similarly, it is easy to envision a Coyotes type scenario having played out with the Panthers had they not hired Bill Zito as general manager. He has done the one thing no one else has been able to do with the Florida Panthers: win games consistently. But to truly understand why Florida is now the state of hockey, we need to place this current run of those two franchises into the context of NHL history. What they are doing right now hasn't been seen since Alberta went on that dominant run between 1983 and 1990, when the Oilers or Flames reached the Stanley Cup finals in every season, winning 6 of them. Florida hasn't quite reached those lofty totals just yet, but that state's run of 5 straight appearances and 3 cups is impressive in its own right, especially considering the restraints now placed on teams as far as roster building goes. The Panthers and Lightning have done this in the salary cap era. The NHL has worked to prevent this very thing from happening, and the teams in Florida, those front offices, still managed to find a workaround. You can hate the fact that hockey in Florida is on a run of success that has rarely ever been duplicated in NHL history. But to act like fans down there don't care about hockey, or that they don't deserve hockey, or anything to that sense, well, it's just petulance. It's like when people try to diminish what Patrick Mahomes has accomplished. What are we even doing here? There's no denying it. Florida is the state of hockey. It's not even a debate right now. Perhaps more worryingly for hockey fans in the rest of Canada and the States, their stranglehold on the Stanley Cup, it doesn't look like it will relent anytime soon. Congrats to the Panthers, and thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to learn more about the most unlikely hero in modern NHL history, video upper right hand corner of your screen, and to better understand the wild nature of NHL team relocations, video lower right hand corner. Until next time, I'm Cheyenne Hollis. This is The Touchback, and as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.